talking to my favorite Danvillian. Well, wait a minute. I know Dennis Carter too, but Chuck Vipperman is right there at the top with Dennis Carter. So, I was thinking, you've been doing GW games for how long now?
This is my 35th season. I started first year was 1989, so it was technically right after Reagan left the White House.
And I've been broadcasting for about 20-some years now, and I don't think we've ever crossed paths.
We haven't. We've had how many messenger messages, emails, things. I mean, we've worked together. We've had a lot of jokes. You shared a very cool picture, I think, of Ivan Koloff with me a few years ago, which I actually encountered it on my Facebook memories the other day, and I said, oh, that's so cool. Man, I hadn't heard from Bob yet this year of football. Let me shoot him a message here.
Here we go. Hey, EC Glass and GW, it's a storied rivalry. My dad actually went to EC Glass for a portion of his life, so I feel like I know a little bit of what's going on. Bo Henson, Eddie Martin, Tyrone Robertson, Andre Kendrick, tons of
Carl
players.
Bradley, oh my gosh! And if you go, we had really there are like three distinct waves of this rivalry. There was in the mid '70s. When Glass had guys like Mickey the Hulk Fitzgerald and Johnny Palmer was their coach. Yep. GW had some great, 8, 9, 10 win teams, and they met about week 4 every year, and it was usually for the Western District Championship. In the 80s, early 80s, of course, you had GW's, great 81, 82 teams, but Glass had a lot, and that was a week 7 game. Then later, they moved it to like week 9 in the late 80s. But then in the 90s, we mentioned a lot of those guys, Tyrone Robertson, Andre Kendrick, Carl Bradley, Cornell Brown, Nate Poole. There was just a plethora of talent that was going through those schools at the exact same time. And on 2 occasions in the 90s when they met, usually about week 6 or 7, this is back when we still had the old Associated Press high school football poll. It was literally number 1 versus number 2 in the state. Right. It was awesome atmosphere, great football.
And, it's the days of when City Stadium would actually get full.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember well. Yeah, there was we, of course, broadcast always on the visitor side.
Yep.
And you could see across the way, not another place you could have put a person. You look down below you, not another place you could put a person. I mean, just a packed house.
Well, even broadcasting for Heritage now, when I see the Jug Bowl, which is the biggest thing here with Heritage and EC Glass, you can see a lot of metal now because I think everybody has more choices, so on and so forth. But, hey, GW and EC Glass, that was the thing for,
Yeah, for about a 30-year stretch there was really no final rivalry, I think, in Virginia. And, of course, it's not a rivalry if one team is dominating, and each team has had little stretches of domination here or there, 3 years, 4 years, or whatever, but never very long.
But since the VHSL has done this wonderful thing they call it expanding the playoffs, which I'm not crazy about, but you've never seen EC Glass and GW meet up in the playoffs, which is kind of weird.
It was almost like there was a negatively pulled magnet keeping us away from each other. We were always on opposite sides of the bracket, and if one advanced, the other wouldn't, and if the other advanced, the first one wouldn't. It was just like we were like kryptonite. We could not get Glass in the playoffs, even though GW and Glass were frequent visitors to the playoffs. But you had to figure the law of averages was going to catch up eventually.
What has to replicate for GW to win this game? Because I know they won the earlier matchup.
Yeah, I think what helped them out immensely in week 1 was the defensive performance. Glass, at the time, I understand, they've changed offense a little bit because of personnel issues, but at the time they were relying heavily on the pass. And matter of fact, in the GW game, a lot of their biggest gains came from their quarterback buying time in the pocket, rolling right, even though he's not a particular mobile quarterback. But our defenders rather, had broken off coverage and thinking there was no way this guy was going to get the ball away, and he did. And he got 100 yards passing just on 3 wild scrambles like that. But the other side of the coin is GW did not turn the ball over, and that helped an awful lot to get a big road win over a good team like Glass. Now, the past couple of weeks, we've been bitten by the turnover bug. Last week, 2 interceptions, not the quarterback's fault. Both of the balls were catchable. And the week before that, 3 fumbles. So that is a very disconcerting trend that we're starting here late in the year. and hope they get that out of their system. But yeah, no turnovers is always important in football. It's triply important in the playoffs.
How's that defensive bug going? Because that was hitting good that night in Lynchburg, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Yeah. We shifted a few things up on defense, knowing that Glass like to pass more than run. So, and it will shift the defense according to what the offense is doing offensively. Our offense is pretty much we're going to run the same stuff, week to week, no matter who we're playing. But on defense, yeah, we try to match the personnel. And the heart and soul of the defense are the two middle backers, number 10, Avante Fitzgerald, number 20, Kalik Hairston. And it's like having a two-headed quarterback on defense. Both of them are 3-year starters. Both of them are smart. They're physical, not very big, but that's kind of the typical GW athlete. We usually have, someone who's probably undersized to play Division I college football, but they're very passionate, very physical, and those two really make our defense go. Our defensive line, all they have to do is keep the linemen off our linebackers, and we're in good shape.
Approximately how many guys go both ways?
Ooh, good question. Number 75, Chris Law, is more or less a full-time two-way guy, but even though I say that, one of our assistant coaches, Antoine Barras, his duty on game night is to rotate the 4 defensive linemen out, so we always have a fresh group. So even though Law is a starter on defense, he'll play maybe a little more than half the snaps functionally. We have 3 other guys that will put in at least part-time roles both ways. Don't like to have our quarterback going both ways. Nia only plays one, and we don't like to have a starting tailback go both ways, which that stinks because that's a very good cornerback we're not able to take advantage of. We've done that in the past, the recent past. Jacoby Myers and a couple of others were just so good on defense, and Elijah Bridges last year that we just had to have them out there, but we had to have them run the ball too. So if you're going to put a number on it, probably about 2 full-time and 4 part-time two-way guys. We've been able to 2 platoon at some positions, and that's helped a lot with stamina. This
is going to be a compliment. I'm going to call you an old head. I'm going to call me an old head.
Love it.
We've been around.
It's better than the alternative, okay?
Sure, that's what I tell myself every day.
Every day.
We've been around. Has the number of guys going both ways, in your opinion, gone down or gone up?
It's actually dropped a little bit. Now it's really weird. GW is an odd example because, and Glass has seen this to a degree too. The declining populations of our respective cities. Danville, much more precipitous drop. We honored the 1982 state champions a couple of weeks ago, and one of them is my color guy, Jim McCauley. And we noted that on that 82 team, they had only one guy that did anything resembling both ways, even Keita Covington. And even then, he was part-time on defense, maybe a nickelback. But that was because they carried 72 players at the varsity level, and the high school itself, enrollment was like 2,200. Well, it's literally half that size right now.
Right.
So when if you just run the raw numbers, it's going to be a whole lot harder to get away with 2 platooning at every position. Amherst, in particular, even some of their glory years in the 90s and the early 2000s, when they were winning state championships, they're going 13-1. They had a lot of two-way players. I mean, one year they had 9 two-way players. And I'm thinking, boy, we should be able to ground these guys down. Well, we didn't. They kicked their butts 63-35, but because they were pretty darn good. And they were out of there by the 4th quarter, so they still had their energy. But, I think in recent years it's going down. Coaches are trying to get more guys reps and really recognizing, particularly when you get this late in the season and you got 10 games under your belt, it's nice for your starter to have averaged 40 snaps a game versus 60. Just on a cumulative basis, that's 200 snaps they've not been out for. That's presumably 200 more snaps they got in their legs and feet.
Do you worry about confidence at all with this GW?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I hate playing a team twice in a year.
Right.
These are, we sometimes forget these are teenage boys, and it might have been a long time ago we were teenage boys, but we remembered what we were like as teenagers, and a little flighty and sometimes a little full of ourselves. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
And, they're going to, I just hope they don't think, well, we beat these guys 28-10, and now we got them at home. This should be a layup. Well, no, they are a different team than they were in September, just like you are a different team than you were in September. Been lots of, injuries here and there, reshuffling. This guy loses their spot, da-da-da-da-da. And, it's, on paper, you would favor GW, I suppose. That's, 1 versus 8 game is going to be like that. But, no, I hate playing a team, particularly if we beat them during the regular season. I just don't like it, but I know there's nothing you can do about it.
Let me rephrase the question then. Are you worried about confidence in the fact that this GW team has not gone entirely deep in, the past 2 or 3 years to where it's been tradition that they've gone deep lately?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the last couple of years have certainly been an aberration as far as the entire, let's say, 60 years of GW football. No, that's been the aberration. I like our senior leadership this year. I mean, I say that every year, but this group of seniors, in addition to being good football players, they are good leaders. Neo Capel is a 3-year starter at quarterback, and he's just a natural-born leader. He carries himself with an air of confidence, not cockiness. And even as a sophomore, he had the respect of the seniors on that team. He's level-headed, never gets too high, never gets too low. And this year, as his fans, his mom will point out, he picked up a step this year. He's about a step quicker, which was nice. But yeah, his number one contribution is unquestioned leadership on the offense. And on defense, those 2 middle backers I was talking about, number 10 Fitzgerald, number 20 Hairston, 2 seniors, 2 3-year starters. And we've had a couple of games where things were beginning to not go our way this year, and instead of collapsing, we got stronger. And that really makes me confident about this. And that's senior leadership. The coaches can do that Monday through Thursday, but when the lights are on Friday, you got to look at the leaders on the field, and we've got some good ones this year.
Fun fact, I feel older because I went to high school with Neo's mom.
Exactly. We had the wildest thing happen earlier this year, and I knew it was going to happen eventually. I called a game that had a 3rd-generation Hairston in it.
Okay.
I called their grandfather's game in '89, father's in the early 2000s, and now theirs in 2024. So I got 3 generations. I knew it was going to happen eventually, and it finally did this year. So, we joined the club.
When you look at – well, let me ask the question first. EC Glass beats GW if what happens?
GW turns it over a couple of times, particularly in bad field position, and Glass plays a turnover-free game. I've been intrigued, watching their new personnel on offense. They seem to be slowly finding their rhythm. Now, it's hard to reinvent yourself during the middle of a grueling Seminole District schedule. You don't get very many layups to do experiments with. It is all on-the-job training. I'm intrigued by the way they've been able to sort of, out of necessity, reinvent themselves a bit on offense. And I think we're going to burn the tapes on the first 3 weeks and probably on our game earlier this year because this is a team that has evolved. I think Coach Lovelace has done a great job of adapting to the personnel issues they've had this year, some of the injuries and whatnot. And, this is going to be a different team here. And if they get an early lead on the road, I expect they're going to bring more than a couple people down from Lynchburg to fill those visitor stands. Glass has a very good chance at pulling the upset here because, and again, underpinning all this, playoffs is wackiness. Playoff games do not follow regular season formats. You can look at all the regular season scores and try to utilize the transitive theory, A beat B, B beat C, so A should beat C. No. None of that matters in the playoffs. It is like you have literally wiped the slate clean and are starting with a whole new set of variables. The playoffs are funky, they're wild, and they're absolutely wonderful if you're winning.
When I look at Glass, you beat the rival in Heritage, which I think was good, but then you lose the last game of the regular season. I always get worried that if you, quote-unquote, stumble into the playoffs, you've got a bad taste to get out of your mouth really quick.
Exactly. And I've seen it happen both ways. I've seen Week 10 carry over into Week 11, and clearly that team got dispirited last week and has not yet recovered. But 1994, GW had a lot of injuries in their season finale at Halifax County, and big upset loss, 24-22. Never will forget it. We had 2 offensive linemen starters out. Because of that, we had to go on the road against the 9-1 Garfield team, first round of the playoffs. Our injured players came back, and we walloped them by 4 touchdowns and made it to the state championship game that year. So, it works both ways. But again,
Sure.
I'll always tell people we're dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and they are flighty. Sometimes it's for the better, sometimes not for the better. And that's one thing we always have to remember. These are just kids. And sometimes they step up, sometimes they get overwhelmed, just like anyone else.
You don't know what to be scared of sometimes, which I think is a good thing.
That is a very good thing. I've seen teams that were just so wonderfully oblivious to the pressures that they performed immaculately, and other teams that were real brainy and think a lot, they succumb to the pressure sometimes.
And I would like to point out, you pointed out that year was, 1989, where they went up and beat Garfield?
In 94.
94.
Mm-hmm.
How many teams were getting in the playoffs then? 4.
About half of what is the case now. Yeah, was it 2013? I think was the first year they expanded it with the subdivisions here, and because we kind of, I think in 2013 scrapped AAA, AA, single A, even though we still kind of have remnants of that format. It's not officially recognized.
Right.
And I'm with you. I kind of heard you say earlier you weren't a big fan of it. I'm not either. It used to be if you said you were a playoff team, that really meant something. That meant you probably won at least 7, probably 8 games during the regular season, and had a noteworthy season. I understand why. I mean, that extra week of revenue.
Sure.
These guys are operating on shoestring budgets. I get it. I understand. But when I played, in the early '80s, there was even half of that because it was just AAA, AA, single A then.
Right.
And I think it was 88 or 89, they doubled it because they established the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
And the first year that happened, Dan River went to the playoffs. Now, when I was playing, we would win 6 games a year, 6-3-1. We had ties then. But we were never even close to the playoffs. I mean,
right.
Martinsville's glory days, and it was only going to be one team in the Piedmont that got to go. So playoffs was just like this illusion beyond our grasp. I mean, we weren't worried about week 11. We knew there was a remote chance. But now, it certainly makes the regular season more interesting for a lot of teams. Like everything else, it's good and bad. I personally like the smaller playoffs, but I get the reasoning behind it. But, having the playoffs potentially add up to half of your regular season games, I think is a little bit too big of a ratio.
I'll be honest with you, and this is not popular, but I would rather 8-2 sit at home than 4-6 get in.
Exactly. I'm with you there. Yeah, I mean, it's and we've had, of course, even worse examples in some of these very small regions. I think in one region there's going to be a 1-9 team in the playoffs, and they're going to get creamed by a 1 seed, and no one really benefits from that, I don't think.
I think it was Region C a few years ago for girls basketball, in which everybody can do their playoffs the same way when you get outside of football for the most part.
Exactly.
And they did a situation, I think, to where everybody got in. I want to say it was 24-0 playing 0-24, and it was like a 3-hour trip. I mean, I would love to go 3 hours.
Exactly. That's the worst part. I mean, you're 0-24. You're going up against an undefeated team, and you got to travel 3 hours to get this whipping. So, I thought that's got to be a long trip. Goodness.
And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day because I used to coach volleyball, and she was the head coach. And I said to her, I'm like, even when you get to the point to where, I mean, you don't want to practice because you got to practice if you're still playing in the regionals.
Sure.
So,
anyway.
And
that's the thing. I mean, even if you got that 1 week there before your 0-24 team goes 3 hours to take out the 24-0 team, you got to practice, and I can't imagine there's much spirit in that practice. I'm guessing now. Hopefully the girls are better people than I am, and they probably are. They probably did have a good week of practice, but boy, it would be hard for me to give my all at that point.
I can't imagine that you can reinvent the wheel in 1 week of practice from 0-24.
Yeah, pretty much you are what you are at that point. You're not going to become a 24-0 team with a good week of practice. When
you look at the rest of 4D, does anything pop out at you?
Yeah, it's pretty strong this year, and there's no one dominant team. It's funny, people, after Salem lost a couple of games early this year, Region D or Class 4D is wide open here because Salem is not Salem. Let's not forget, these guys went 8-2, and the 2 teams that beat them were undefeated, okay?
Right.
They are still Salem. Maybe not quite player for player, position for position as powerful as last year or even the year before, but they are still Salem, and they are still the team to beat. I don't care if they're 1 seed, 4 seed, 8 seed. they are still the team to beat. They're the one with the pedigree. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, Salem High School football in Class 4D is the man. I don't care what their seed is.
It runs through Salem even if it's not in Salem.
Exactly, yeah. And we even got them, of our last, 8 seasons, 6 of them have been ended against Salem in the playoffs. And it's almost a psychological burden now for GW. Now, maybe one of those games we had a reasonable chance of beating them, but they do everything so well. They're not going to beat themselves. No matter what happens, you're not going to win because Salem jumped off sides on 3rd and 3. You're not going to win because Salem threw a bad interception on their side of the field. You're going to win because you were the better football team than Salem that night, and they know how to reach down deep. They have that confident but not cocky attitude. But again, I mean, if this were a poll, if this were based on polls and on points, I think Salem is, until someone can prove otherwise in Region 4D, they're the class of 4D. I still think it goes through them.